March 5th, 1904. The Serbian-born scientist Nikola Tesla publishes in New York a paper on the formation and nature of ball lightning. This still little-studied phenomenon he was even able to artificially induce in his laboratory, apparently as a side effect of his experiments. In doing so, he confirmed several of his nicknames at once: Lord of Lightning, the electric magician, the one who invented the entire 20th century, a genius who spewed out one invention after another, from remote control, through X-rays, to a weapon called the death ray. But with none did he succeed enough to become rich. Yet today he belongs among the most important and also the most mysterious scientists in all of history. Nikola Tesla was born to Serbian parents in 1856 in the village of Smiljan, then on the territory of the Austrian Empire. Today the village is part of Croatia, and both Serbs and Croats therefore claim the famous scientist as their own. Little Nikola was said to have been born during a thunderstorm. From an early age he had a fascination with the new phenomenon, electricity. For example, when he first saw a picture of Niagara Falls, he immediately imagined how the immense flow of water could be used to generate electric power. His student years were not easy. First he studied at the Polytechnic in Graz, where he ended after quarrels with his teachers. Then he spent a semester in Prague at Charles University, but left again due to lack of money. He then began working in Budapest as an ordinary electrical engineer, without having completed any university education. Then chance played a role. The head of his Budapest laboratory received an offer to work in the Paris branch of a company belonging to the famous Edison, and he took young Tesla with him. From Paris, at the age of 28, Tesla moved directly to New York, to Edison's headquarters in Manhattan. Thomas Alva Edison, who 5 years earlier had changed the world with the invention of the light bulb, was now trying to electrify cities with direct current. Nikola, however, had favored alternating current since his student days, so it was clear that the two of them would not last together for long. After 2 years, Tesla resigned, reportedly also because of unpaid rewards, and when he convinced a few investors with a spectacular experiment, during which he spun an iron egg with alternating current so that it stood on its tip, he founded his own company, the Tesla Electric Company. At the age of 30, Tesla grabs the opportunity by the horns and works himself to exhaustion. He will never marry, because, as he said, there are not many famous inventions whose authors are married men. By nature, he reportedly needs only 2 hours of sleep a day, and so every working day of his life ends at 3 a.m. In the field of alternating current, he immediately begins patenting one invention after another, the most famous being the asynchronous induction motor, which in various modifications will become the most widely used electric motor ever. This success attracts the attention of Edison's biggest competitor, George Westinghouse, who buys all the patents from him and teams up with Tesla. Together they start the period that would later be called the War of Currents. It is a dirty game, in which there is a lot of money at stake and the future of electrification. Edison claims that the alternating current of Westinghouse and Tesla, which they can transmit using high voltage, is deadly dangerous and therefore unsuitable for households. And he proves it in his own way, demonstratively killing stray dogs, horses, and even an elephant with it. The situation culminates when he proposes that alternating current should replace the noose for executions and maliciously calls it Westinghousing. But the economic advantage of alternating current, which can be transmitted over much greater distances using high voltage, is clear. When in 1893, Westinghouse and Tesla majestically light up the World's Fair in Chicago, and 3 years later win the competition for the power plant project connected to Niagara Falls, not only is Tesla's childhood dream fulfilled, but the entire war of currents is definitively decided in favor of alternating current. At this moment, one would expect Nikola Tesla to become a millionaire. But his sense for business matters is minimal. He simply does not care much about money. He prefers to churn out hundreds of further ideas. Most of them, however, he quickly abandons, and some he does not even publish. He experiments with X-rays before the German scientist Röntgen himself. He develops the first device for transmitting signals by radio waves before the Italian scientist Marconi. He demonstrates the first machine for wireless remote control, launching a little boat that he controls with electric waves to the amazement of spectators. From all this, he gains nothing much. The big money goes to others. He says about it, "I don't mind that they steal my ideas, but that they have none of their own." His obsession eventually becomes the study of wireless transmission of electrical energy. He intends to build a worldwide system by which energy will be transmitted freely without the need for a distribution network. Any light bulb could be lit without a power cord. Machines could be remotely controlled, including, for example, electric cars. Electricity would be everywhere and ideally free. For his experiments, he needs a large space, and so in 1899, he moves from New York to the town of Colorado Springs in the Wild West. There he builds a laboratory where, among other things, he generates artificial lightning, which is, by the way, also a wireless transmission of electricity. He also produces these famous photographs of himself amid enormous discharges, but in fact, it is a double exposure. Tesla was sitting among the turned-off machines during the shot. In the end, he manages to produce lightning up to 40 meters long, but his experiments blow fuses in the town, shock the horses' horseshoes in the area, and the only result is that he manages to light bulbs wirelessly at a distance of only 30 meters. The locals are angry with him, and when it is discovered that he does not pay rent at all, after only a year, he has to return to New York. But even here, he does not give up. On the contrary, he knows that for wireless transmission of energy, an even stronger source is needed. He manages to persuade the industrialist J.P. Morgan to invest $150,000 in the construction of a monster that Tesla calls the Wardenclyffe Tower. He lures him with the claim that from a 57-meter-high transmitter, he will be able to send a radio signal across the Atlantic for the first time. In reality, he has no such plan, but continues fruitlessly to study his energy transmission. When a year later, the Italian Marconi famously transmits the letter S across the Atlantic in Morse code with a simpler and cheaper transmitter, Morgan loses patience and cuts off all payments to Tesla. Tesla claims that Marconi used 17 of his patents, but he has to abandon his tower and pay off his debts by selling it. From now on, Tesla cannot avoid the label of a genius, but a somewhat phantasmagoric inventor, or a fakir. He is over 50. His profitable patents have already expired, and Tesla's trajectory heads downwards. In 1909, Marconi receives the Nobel Prize for the invention of wireless telegraphy, which drives Tesla into a rage. He sues Marconi, but the lawsuits will drag on for another 35 years. In the meantime, he lives in hotels, which he consistently does not pay for. He suffers from obsessive-compulsive disorder. For example, all actions he does must be divisible by 3. And he has a panic fear of microbes, women's earrings, or peaches. His closest friends are pigeons. Of one white pigeon, he even claims that he loves her as a man loves a woman. His last surge comes only in 1931. Then journalists organize a party for his 75th birthday, and Tesla is congratulated with respect by the greatest minds of the time, including Albert Einstein. Tesla appears on the cover of Time magazine, is reinvigorated, and from then on he always presents new ideas to the world on his birthdays, ideas he is working on. In 1934, at 78, he reacts to the rise of Nazism in Germany. He presents a machine he calls Teleforce, which the press immediately renames as the Death Ray. It is supposed to be a beam of light that can allegedly destroy the entire enemy air force at a distance of 200 miles. He offers the idea to Britain, the United States, the Soviet Union, and Yugoslavia. But in the end, not a single prototype is built, and everything fizzles out. Old Nikola returns to his pigeons, and finally, in January 1943, he dies of a heart attack in his New York hotel room. He was 86 years old. Two things are characteristic of his passing. He lay dead in his room for at least 3 days before anyone noticed his absence. And the second thing, his entire estate, 80 trunks of notes, sketches, and patents, was confiscated and studied for many years by the FBI. Genius, madman, dangerous, or perhaps all of this together. Such was the man who, without a completed education, helped invent the world in which we live today.